Hey everyone, Thyworm here, discussing the latest Last Epoch news. Clean up aisle 3, it's a volatile zombie. Wait, what? I either don't get the reference, or this is funny because it rhymes, or it's just weird. Anyway, Last Epoch introduced exploding zombies, which you can point towards enemies and then they explode as you think they would. This could be an interesting skill, because acolytes have more explosive skills after all. You can be a true demolition expert in the next patch, which will take a while to launch still. If I remember correctly from the dev stream, minion AI settings like passive or aggressive are also in the next patch, which could be very useful for a skill like this. You can manually point your minions to attack targets using A by default, but that is honestly just tedious. Much better would be to set your minions on an aggressive stance and then they just wreak havoc and make things explode. It's a cool skill and this is something I'm actually excited to try out, as I'm one of those lazy summoner players from time to time. There's more Last Epoch news though, as Sarno posted an overview of a few skills that get visual improvements. This is typically one of those things you normally don't really notice, or at least I don't, until you see the video of the new skills and you're like, yeah, I see, this looks really good, and reflecting lights, more realistic shadows, sensible particle effects, they're all examples of giving a more realistic look and feel to a game, even when it is set in a fantasy world. Because it's still important that within the boundaries of those imaginary worlds, physics and lighting behave as you would expect. These are to some extent details of course, and shouldn't be on the same level of impact as a monolith of Fate overall, but the little things matter as well. It may also add to a better feel of combat even. And an update like this shows that the devs are confident in their performance improving project, because if they weren't, adding additional lighting effects to an already unstable game is the last thing you would do. But there's even more, because Last Epoch really is ramping up the teasers, and probably the biggest teaser of them all is the shade of Orobis. Not much is revealed just yet, but definitely enough to speculate a bit on what is to come here. First, a little lore. Orobis is one of the gods in Last Epoch, next to, for example, Hierod, Raya and Lagon. The gods each have their own damage type associated with them. Hierod uses frost, Raya fire, and Orobis, being the god of the void, would use void damage, typically speaking. We've already seen the destructive impact of the void, which spreads across the lands like a tumor, devouring everything in its path. The grand orchestrator behind all this, that's Orobis. We're not facing Orobis himself, at least not at first, but the shade of Orobis in all new monolith echoes. I think by reading the post, however, that the shade has the same destructive, devouring capabilities. It may have the power to even erase an entire timeline. So, what does this mean in-game? Well, I really see the shade as something that will pop up every now and then as a choice in the monolith. I think the shade has a certain percentage chance to spawn, and he may spawn in one of the two options you are presented when choosing an echo. Or maybe we occasionally get a third echo option and the shade of Orobis is present in some of those. And maybe there's going to be an additional counter showing the odds of spawning the shade next to the odds of getting a quest echo. A shade echo, maybe? While Orobis is associated with the void, his shade can take many other forms, and my guess is that his form depends on the echo type that you're in. Most echoes have a clear damage type going for them, with the majority being fire monsters, for example. In the desert map, I think it makes sense that the shade comes in its fire form too. The only form that is actually missing from the Last Epoch post is Orobis' real form, the void form. He is the god of the void, after all. Maybe you need to defeat all the shades or its several forms multiple times until Orobis reveals his final real form, where he turns from a shade into the actual corporal thing, the void god. It would add a sense of progression on top of the monolith. It would give you something to work towards, and you could even spread this out over multiple timelines, although I kinda hope that doesn't happen. I hope this is somewhat contained, maybe to the higher level monoliths, to break the monotony in those timelines. The shade's forms may even be exclusive to certain timelines, especially with the 3 new ones being clearly timelines of a certain damage type. I'm not sure this means we get new echoes as well, as in new designs, new levels. It might make use of existing levels, but make them more interesting, spice them up somewhat by adding the shade as a factor. And it seems he can impact your run quite a bit. It is even suggested that he can end the timeline entirely, which would be a welcome change because timelines take a while to complete. If somehow by fighting this boss you can speed up the monolith, maybe skip a few echoes or end the thing entirely and receive some cool loot, I am definitely in favor of that, especially because it seems you have a choice. Finally, I don't think it is a coincidence that the post calls the shade a nemesis, which is a reference to the Resident Evil game where you're being constantly chased and threatened by an unstoppable nemesis. The shade of Orobis also immediately reminded me of the Maw in World of Warcraft, a zone in the Shadowlands, and the longer you stay in that zone, the more dangerous it becomes. At some point, it is so dangerous that you're being kicked from the entire thing and you need to wait a day until you can return because then it is safe again. I think something similar to Resident Evil Nemesis or the Maw, or maybe even a combination of the two, is about to take place in the monolith. I could even think of a way that the void starts creeping up on you during the echoes, similarly to how it devours the world of Iterra, a slowly progressing purple goo that chases you while you're trying to kill the monolith objectives. That would be something. It would be a bit of a reverse delirium from PoE. Whatever they come up with, this concept is interesting on a lot of levels, and I can think of plenty of ways of how they can implement this. It is something the monolith really needs, some variety, and it should definitely remedy the repetitiveness that seeps into the monolith after you've been playing it a while. And there's more to come. There will be a more detailed post soon, so we'll see how accurate my speculations are. I'm really looking forward to this. Final topic of the day are the 3D models of the Nagasa, a new god race in Last Epoch. Now, I am generally on board with the art design in Last Epoch. Yeah, I may or may not have compared certain items in the past to IKEA furniture, but a few exceptions aside, I think the art style is typically very impressive. The new Spriggan and Werebear, for example, I mean, come on, those things look amazing. I can't wait to slap some enemies with vines with this bad boy. Which makes it all the weirder when looking at these Nagasa models. Like, seriously, what's going on here, right? Let's look at the Emerald Nagasa. The creatures itself are basically Nagas with an A attached. I guess that means they're more powerful. Fyraga was a more powerful spell than Fyra, after all. The Emerald dude has some green emerald spikes coming out of his collar. How this guy is going to cross the street safely is a mystery, honestly. The moment he looks to the right, he'll slice off his own nose. Very dangerous. How these spikes remain in place is dubious as well, and apart from maybe the decoration or some status symbol or something, what is the point of these pointy things? Is it like a Bismarck helmet where you charge into battle head first? It seems very impractical. Even when you're some sort of pharaoh sitting on a throne, you're constantly in danger of cutting yourself. The rest of the body armor looks really good. It reminded me of the leather armor in Skyrim. There's nothing wrong with that. I can't help but think, however, that if you have this god race, that by now they would have come up with a more elaborate way to attach emerald wolverine claws to their gear. This just seems very unstable and rather unpractical. Imagine having a drink before rushing into battle with these things on. And I'm not sure when the last time was that you slithered on the floor in a leather outfit. It's Corona times, maybe it's been a while, but leather isn't really like, you know, a great material for this specific purpose. People wrapped in leather don't typically move around a whole lot or slither on the floor. Why? Well, people covered in leather outfits sometimes do other things. But also, the surface tension of leather is very high. It causes a lot of friction. The whole bottom part of this outfit is going to burn up and cause some serious damage to the snakeskin as soon as this guy or girl starts moving. And is there anything to protect here? Like, are they getting cold? I mean, I don't necessarily want to get into the various reproductive organs of the Nagasa and where they may be situated, but going by these pictures, I think the crown jewels are in a safe spot regardless, or just not there in the first place, as with any snake. And the bottom leather piece seems therefore rather pointless and painful. Then the Diamond Nagasa, who look like Cleopatra, have been revived from her tomb in Egypt after the decomposing setting. I love the color scheme. The deep blue matches very well with the ancient gold and the dead lizard skin. The beige matte white with dusty sandy stains provides a great finish and adds some authenticity, which is very important in this day and age, and maybe in their age too. Somehow, this Nagasa got a hold of some really white nail polish. Donkey milk, maybe. I'm not sure about the value of diamonds in the era of the gods, but these diamonds aren't particularly locked in place. As soon as she moves, they'll fall off her arms, off her head. She'll be leaving a trail of diamonds. This model is still rather subtle though, and overall I enjoy the theme here. The last model is honestly so weird that the developers just put down a bunch of question marks themselves. So I thought a little bit about it, and here's what happened, right? 11th Hour Games hired an intern, and this is their first project, and they didn't want to disappoint the intern, so they allowed this model to go along with the other two on the website. It reached Sarno, who needed to post this. He's in a different time zone after all, so he couldn't reach either EHG or the intern, and decided to post it anyway with 3 question marks, because clearly he has no idea of what's going on here either. And Sarno, being the community manager he is, realized there is no way this was going to be in the game, right? So to manage expectations like a decent community manager would, he put the note in at the bottom. We do not presently expect the Nagasa to be available in patch 0.8.2. No, me neither. On the practical side though, you could use this Nagasa as a coat hanger, or put her in the armory and put some gear and items on it so it's easily reachable. Or use her like they do in the picture to dry the war banners after a wash before heading into battle. I'm not sure what the 3 metal pizza slices are doing in her arms. Maybe they can come off and be thrown at enemies or something. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode, especially that very serious last part. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye bye.